Okay, hey everybody, it's Mike. It's about time to get started. We got about 30 seconds to go, but I said I'd start at 4 o'clock, so I'm just going to let the late stragglers come on because we still got about 30 seconds. But I see a lot of people. I see a lot of names I recognize, and again, thanks for supporting me over the years, and our products that we release. There's a lot of tools for traders, so to speak, out there on the market. And what we at Orderflows try to do is provide cutting edge forms of analysis, basically that take information from the order flow, because to be honest, a lot of people haven't really warmed up to order flow, and a great way to get used to order flow is by having a tool such as the Flowshifts. So that being said, let's jump into it. So, again, brief disclaimer, please. Everybody's here. We're professionals. We're all adults in the room. We do realize markets go up and go down. There is risk involved in the markets. Markets don't always go up. And today was a great example of a market that was under pressure and rebounded. Right, markets go up and down. So just remember, trading involves risk. Okay, so what I want to talk about today is the Orderflows flow shifts, and I don't really have a big agenda on tap. I don't want to keep you guys here for 2 hours or anything like that. I just want to give you guys a good overview and show you how to use it today. Tomorrow I have a special session with Pablo from the Indicator Store. Pablo has his tool called Markers, which helps you automate trade signals, and we're going to show you how to use flow shifts, how to set it up with markers. We're going to do that tomorrow. So I'm not going to talk about automating it today. That's tomorrow's topic, and you should already have an invite for that presentation, but I'll be sending it out later as well. So be sure to sign up for that if you're interested in automating your trade entry. So today I'm going to talk about what is flow shifts, how to use flow shifts, how flow shifts is different from other indicators like the Flowscalper and the Pulse. And I just sort of talked about automating flow shifts with markers, and that's tomorrow. Then I'm going to open it up for questions, and I'll do my best to give you an answer. And flow shifts, what really is flow shifts? This is something that I've been working on for quite a while, and it's gone through several different iterations over the last few years. And the reason for that is because the thing about working with a programmer, trying to get something programmed into an indicator, especially in order flow indicators, the programmer has to understand order flow to a certain extent, and I have a great programmer that I use, that I've been using basically since I started. Well, not basically, since I've started. So he understands it, but even then, sometimes, it's like I got to explain to him sometimes, no, this is how it's really supposed to be looking at it, because I could give him a set of instructions, and as a simple programmer, if you've done any programming, you could just program that in. But then there's context, right? There's sort of market structure that you also want to take into account in the what do you want to call it? It's sort of the whole trading picture. Okay, so what I'll be talking about is when flow shifts, what it looks at is the volume traded at the price, right? How that volume traded, the price action of the bar, the market structure, and how the market is trading right now. Okay, because that's important on how the market is trading now, because if the market isn't conducive to sort of your position, your position's not going to be very profitable. Okay, so when I talk about, let's just run through these, volume traded at the price. Obviously, that's the big thing about order flow, is adding volume into the equation, right? As opposed to just normally looking at a normal open, high, low, close bar chart, right? You're going to be looking at the volume, how it traded on the bid, how it traded on the offer, where in the bar the volume traded. Was it near the bottom or near the top? And depending on the type of bar, where that volume transacts is also important. Okay, because you could have your normal bar, and generally, on a normal candlestick, the volume is most likely going to be centered somewhere in the middle. When it starts appearing, at edges of the bars, that's where, as a trader, you can find some value in looking at the volume. So, that deals with how it's traded. Price action, a lot of people come to order flow because, they're familiar with price action in the market. Okay, and price action is important. Is the market going up? Is it going down? Are we testing a high or testing a low or about to break out? That sort of analysis also is key in trading, in setting up an indicator or a tool, because you just don't want to take an equation, a simple mathematical equation, for example, and just plug it in and take every buy and sell signal based off that equation. Because if the conditions aren't there, with the surrounding, rather than just taking the answer, okay, 2 + 2 = 4, when in reality 2 + 2 is equal to 5, based on something else that's happening, okay. And market structure, obviously you want to take into account, what's the structure of the market, is the market weak or is it strong, etc. And most importantly, how the market is trading now. Okay, if you're looking to get long, you want to be buying ideally at a low price, right? If the market is been rallying, do you really want to keep buying at new highs all the time? Probably not, right? You'd probably be looking for an area that, some weakness to be coming into the market that you can get short at, right? And what makes Flowshifts different, I left it out of this slide here, is that the way I describe it is long-term traders versus short-term traders. Long-term traders, when they step into the market, they've got the big deep pockets. They're the ones that are going to help move the market in a direction, right? They're going to stop a move from, that's been going on. They're going to stop that move and help start the other move, ideally, okay? And, if a move is underway, the long-term trader joins in, that's going to give it an extra boost, right? That's what you want to see, right? You want to see the complementary order flow, but not just volume by itself, right? You want to see a certain type of volume. You want to see the big traders stepping into the market, okay? Because the people with the deep pockets, right, they're not the ones that are going to be getting out quickly, right? They're not going to be getting out, in 8 hours, right? They're looking to buy and keep it in on their books and keep it as inventory, okay? So, what you really want to see is long-term participation as opposed to short-term participation in terms of the volume. And for a lot of people, that is a struggle to differentiate because, you just look at volume, right? What trades on the exchanges now, everything is pretty, it's anonymous. Honestly, you can't come in there and say, yeah, well, this volume that traded is this type of trader, or, is a bank, or, is a hedge fund. But obviously, if you're watching the order flow, depending on how it traded, you can get a good idea, right? If that volume has some strength behind it, right? That's able to arrest a move down or stop a move that's been going up. Okay, so those are all sort of the little pieces that go into Flowshifts. Now, in using the Flowshifts, right, how do you really use it? You want to be using it for day trading, right? It's not something that's really going to be looking at to buy and hold for, hold a position for a few days. I mean, you can hold a position for a few hours. There's ways to use it for swing trading, but really you're not going to be holding it from Tuesday to Thursday, right? You in and out, preferably on the same day. And, different markets, you're going to have slightly different settings. And, again, not all markets trade exactly the same. We like to think that, right? Everyone says, well, if you're using technical analysis, the same technical analysis that works on an E-mini should work on crude oil, and that should work on ultra bonds, and that should work on the euro currency. Well, it should to a certain extent, right? But obviously, there's different volume characteristics. There's different risk characteristics of each market, right? Every market doesn't trade the same, right? You have different market participants that you have in, say the wheat market that you different from what you have in the euro currency market, okay? So you have to take that into account. So while the settings are in general mostly the same, you can tweak them to a particular market as well as a particular time frame, right? Because if you're trading a 1 minute chart, you're going to be trading a 1 minute chart very different than you would trade a 4 range chart, in the E-minis, right? Or you trade a 30-second chart in the micro NASDAQ, much different than you would trade, a 10 range chart, because there's different volatility profiles, so to speak, of different markets and different chart types. And that's where, these different settings that I'm going to just run through here really quick, help you balance that out, right? Because again, some markets move faster than others. So obviously there's 3 things here, right? Obviously the first is a license token. The second one is low volume markets, normal markets, and volatile markets. This is the detection levels, right? Which type of market you're trading, okay? So for example, if I was just trading E-minis on a 1 minute chart, I would just use low volume markets and normal markets. Originally, we had this called night session because obviously the night session is much lower volume than the day session, but we changed the name to low volume market because you would also apply it on some of the slower markets relative in terms of volume, like say wheat during the day, or what else? A lot of the grains, the oil seeds, some of the overseas markets as well. Normal markets, pretty much all markets, okay? And volatile markets, this was really meant for things like NASDAQ, MNQ. Not, you can, depending on how you're trading certain markets, like say YM, or if you're trading FDAX, you might want to try it with there. I use it for ultra bonds as well. Sorry, no, not with ultra bonds. I use it with, I'm trying to think of the other market, MNQ, DAX, NQ, YM. I was going back and forth with it. I think now I have it off of my YM chart. And then obviously the swing filter. But for most charts, you're going to use low volume markets and normal markets, okay? And I'm going to talk about the night session when I get to the charts section. So the swing filter, okay, if you want to find new highs or new lows, again, you can adjust that based on how high or high low, here is 1. So if you have the swing filter enabled, you could enter a period, whether it's 1 bar or 10 bars, etc. And on some markets, like MNQ, you might want to have a higher swing period, as much as 10 or even 20. Minimum bar volume. Now, for most markets, it's not an issue. Volume is not an issue. It's when you start getting into things like the night session, okay, where the volume just really drops off, and in some markets, it really just drops off a cliff. During the day session, you're not really going to be worrying about the bar volume, but at night, if you're trading, MES or MNQ, you might want to put a minimum bar volume of 100, MNQ probably 50, because when you're analyzing volume, you want some volume to occur, right? If there's not enough volume and you get a signal, sometimes it's, I don't want to say it's a weak signal, but it's a signal that's probably not going to be very effective because the volume, it was just low, period. Okay, so, but again, during the day session, that's not what, you're not going to have to worry about it. But at night, you may want to consider it. I said for night, for ES, you don't have to worry about it. But during the US day session, you definitely don't have to worry about it. But again, depending on the market, you may want to keep an eye on what the volume is like at night and understand your market. Now, bar delta confirmation and bar delta divergence. I like to use bar delta confirmation, meaning if the bar is an up bar, it's got to have positive delta. If it's a down bar, it's got to have negative delta. Okay, divergence would be the opposite. If it's an up bar, it would have to have negative delta, or if it's a down bar, it would have to have positive delta. It would have to be a divergence in the delta and the bar direction. Okay, now you could disable both of them and it'll just won't even take that into account. You just unclick this bar delta confirmation. Prominent POC confirmation. Most of you don't need to use this. it's an extra filter, and it's really meant for 1 or 2 users out there that really like to look for prominent point of control. The problem is with prominent point of control, you're really going to filter out a lot of trades, because while every bar has a point of control, not every bar has a prominent point of control. And during the trading day, you know, for example, on a 1-minute E-mini chart, there might be only 15 prominent points of control that come up. So you turn that filter on with Flowshifts, you may get 1, 2 signals, if that. You might get 0. But it's in there because I know some people like to use that as a filter. Now, balance strength and balance points. Now, this is where most of you guys are going to live in here. Now, balance strength and balance points are different, okay? And its balance strength is a value between 1 and 5. Balance points is also a value between 1 and 5. Obviously, 1 is the weakest. So say you have a setting of balance strength of 1 and balance points of 1, that's the lowest setting that can be, and you're going to get a lot of signals, right? Now, as you go up in strength, obviously, there's going to be less signals, right? Because it's requiring stronger balance in the market, or to be happening, basically. And highest you go is 5. Balance points is similar. The weakest one is 1, the strongest is 5, and really what it's looking for are levels of balance in the market, okay? 1 is the bare minimum. If it doesn't even qualify to have 1, it's not going to give you a signal. So you cannot enter 0. It has to be 1, and again, 5 is the highest, okay? So it can't go over 5. So it can't be 0, so it's a value between 1 and 5, and it's just looking for these points in the market of balance, okay? And that's sort of how the flow shifts are taking effect. Now, you don't have to use the same numbers. It doesn't have to be 1 and 1 or 2 and 2 or 3 and 3. It doesn't have to be 3 and 1. It could be 1 and 3, 1 balance strength, 3 balance points. You can adjust it, right? And I'm going to take you through some different markets. Now, the last part I want to talk about is the trade entry signal, okay? Because ultra bonds, I don't use it on. It's pretty much the one of 2 markets that I don't use it on is ultra bonds, and a market that trades overseas that nobody else is really interested in. And the reason being is, in a market like ultra bonds, all right, I want to see the signals as soon as they come up, right? Then I want to take it from there, okay? So if I have trade entry signal turned on, what this means is trade price level in ticks and trade validity in bars is 2 and 2. So that means that after there's a bar with a signal, the next bar or 2, right? Trade validity in bars is set to 2. Within the next 2 bars, price has to move in the direction of the signal by 2 ticks, okay? And that I've found, right? Because you need follow through order flow from when you get into a trade. Once you get into a trade, there's nothing else you can do as a trader to make the market go in that direction. You're in, right? I mean, it's not like you're such a big player that you can keep, say you get long, that you want the market to go up, that you can keep buying, right? Because you can't, right? We're just small retail traders. We're not big institutions or big, trading firms that we can just keep buying it and help prop the price up, and hopefully other people will come in. No, you and me, I go out, I buy my 2, 3 contracts, and that's it. Then it's okay, yeah, let the market go in my direction. So what the trade entry signal does is it tells before it plots a signal, right? It analyzes it looks for the flow shift, right? I have this on all my tools. It looks for the shift happening, and once it happens, okay, now it's getting ready, right? It can plot a zone, or you could turn that off. It's telling me, hey, you know what? The conditions are met here for this market to start moving, okay? And now when it comes into getting into the trade, if I have this enabled, right, within the next 2 bars, the market has to move at least 2 ticks in that direction. Because there's how many times have you bought something, right? You got into a trade, and then the market immediately went the opposite way. You know, you got long at 19, and we didn't even trade 20. And the next thing you know, we're trading 18, 17, 16, and you're just like, you know, what the heck? This keeps me out of those trades where there's no follow through order flow. And I use this, like I said, on pretty much all the markets except ultra bonds and palm oil. Okay, and again, you know, the reason why I don't use it on ultra bonds and palm oil is because, you know, that market trades a little bit differently, and I want to be alert to whenever the signals appear. Okay, and again, that's me, but all the other markets I use them on. Okay, so just, you know, before I jump into the charts, how does this differentiate from, you know, the Flowscalper, which I released last year, or the Pulse, which I released 2 years ago? Well, again, they read different parts of the order flow, right? You know, order flow's got a lot of data that a trader can use in their analysis, right? You can, you know, there's delta, there's points of control, there's imbalances. You know, there's a question here. I said I'd answer questions a little bit later, but, you know, there's a question about what is a prominent point of control? Well, it's a point of control, just really quick. I'll get to the rest of the questions later, but this one sort of applies here. What is a prominent point of control? It's a point of control that matters. And what that means is it's a point of control that acts as support or resistance in the market. And it's a level that I'm looking for the market to react to, you know, starting immediately move away, or if it comes back to that level to act as support, if it's a bullish prominent point of control, or if it's a bearish prominent point of control, a level that is going to act as resistance. Okay, so, you know, that's what a prominent point of control is. And like I said, there's, you know, depending on the market and the chart type, like I said, you know, on a E-mini 1 minute chart, there may be, you know, from 8:30 to 3 o'clock, you know, how many bars are there on a 1 minute chart? You know, 60 in an hour. You know, so what is that? It's like 330 bars, okay, on a 1 minute chart during the cash hours. But, you know, there might be 20 of those prominent points of control, right? Even though there's a point of control in every bar, not everyone is a prominent point of control. But Flowscalper and Pulse, right? So Flowshifts analyzes the volume traded at the price, how it traded there, how it traded in relation to earlier, how it's currently trading right now, right? Because, you know, what's happening right now is what's going to give you the clues, you know, as to how the market's going to trade next, right? Because, you know, as a scalper, you know, I don't like to necessarily define myself as a scalper, right? I've always defined myself as, you know what, the market's moving, I'm gonna get in, get on, get out. You know, it's sort of like riding the elevator up a couple floors and get out. So that's really, you know, that's my style of trading. You know, I'm not the type that likes to, I got enough stress in my life with a lot of other stuff. I don't want to make trading more stressful. And I know how stressful trading can be. You know, trust me, I've gotten calls in the middle of the night when I was, you know, working on the trading desks, you know, saying, hey, you know what, we got this position, you know, and we're out by, you know, 6 figures, you know, and I don't need that stress in my life anymore. So my type of trading has changed from that, right? I don't want to be going up and, you know, that's as sad as it sounds, right? I'm in the middle of a major purchase, and I was talking to somebody about Bitcoin, because I sold most all of my Bitcoin, you know, just like a week or two ago. And, you know, I was joking. I said, you know what, you know, now when Bitcoin's trading at, you know, 50, 55,000, yeah, it can drop 5,000, 10,000 in a day, right? Imagine when Bitcoin's going to get up to, you know, 200,000, you know, I don't want to say a million, but, you know, imagine if Bitcoin's up at 200,000, right? And it drops 10%, you know, you're like, oh, you know, oh gosh, Bitcoin just dropped $25,000 today, you know, even though, you know, it just gives you that extra stress in your life because you're just thinking, you're just looking at the number, and you see it, right? You know, and just sort of internalizing it. Oh, you know, that's that. So that's how my trading is now, right? My trading is more short term, more so than ever. But Flowscalper, right, which is the one released last year, it analyzes the order flow to see when the market is turning bullish or bearish. Okay, so it's looking at different parts of the order flow, right? I mean, than the flow shifts. Okay, so that they're not based on the same thing. And I'm going to show you on a chart the differences, right, between the two signals. And the pulse looks for areas where momentum starts to trade. You know, most of trading revolves around momentum. And if you can pick up where momentum happens as soon as it's happening, then, you know, you can find yourself in a trade early that's going to have a nice run. You know, somebody told me the other day they got, you know, they just started using the pulse and they're amazed. You know, they got like 200 ticks out of the MNQ, you know, literally on the second or third day of using it. So, you know, on markets that trend a lot, you know, like take for example, right, NASDAQ today or MNQ today, right? We had that big run up from 700, you know, around 2 o'clock all the way up to, what was it, 850. So, you know, that's where they look at different things of the order flow, right? They don't look at all the same things, right? Flowshifts looks at different things than what Flowscalper looked at, and Flowscalper and Flowshifts look at different things than the Pulse looked at. Okay, so you know they all analyze different things, but they're analyzing the order flow, right? Because there's not just one way to trade order flow. There's many different ways to look at order flow. Okay, so let's take a look. Now, again, tomorrow we're going to do a special, tomorrow morning we got a special presentation with Pablo from the indicator store, and we're going to talk about automating flow shifts. Okay, so, you know, this is what I was talking about here in NASDAQ this afternoon, right? We had that big run up here, but, you know, before I start going through a bar chart, let me sort of talk about on a footprint chart. Okay, so this is Ultra Bonds, okay, and just really quick, you know, if you guys want my settings, yeah, I'm fine. I can give you my settings. You know, I've been sending out emails with my settings, and you know, it's a good way, you know, rather than sit here and try to figure it out. Like my settings, again, I'm going to be posting this recording, all right, up later tonight. But I'm going to also, I think I'll just probably easier if I create I'll just screenshot all these settings here for you. So, you know, the user guide has some settings, but again, it might be easier rather than, you know, having to email me, just to have, you know, a reference point of these different settings. Okay. So this is, what is this? This is Ultra Bonds on the footprint chart. Okay. So for example, here, right, this area of Ultra Bonds, like I said, Ultra Bonds is a great contract to trade. Not a lot of people trade it. Now, it's not meant for everybody. Okay. It trades 31.25 a tick, and it can move sometimes pretty quick. Okay, you definitely, you know, no matter what market you trade, always make sure you got stops in. Okay, but just really quick here, I'm going to talk about this area right here. This was around 9:30, 9:45 this morning, right? We went from the 183.08, you know, a nice move up. You know, there's a nice quick 10-point move up and 20-point move up. But you can see there's a lot of nice signals, especially if you're just trying to scalp 3 or 4 ticks in this market. So what it's looking at, right? Let me get this here so you can see. Let me make this lines a little bit stronger. Crosshairs, change it to 2. Okay, so here's a signal here. Here's a signal here. Now again, I have trade entry signal off. Okay, and right, where is it here? Trade entry signal is disabled, right? On these other markets, I have it enabled. And really, you know, this is a market I really have grown intimate with, and so that's why I turn it off. Okay, so if it was turned on, it would not give this signal here. It would only give this signal, because here's a signal, but the next 2 bars, it didn't move 2 ticks, right? This bar, there's a signal here, and then the next bar moved 2 ticks right here, right? 1, 2, 3, right? So the area I'd be getting long in here is actually at 16. Take a little bit heat down to 13 before it popped up. But it's looking at obviously the delta of the bar. It's looking at the order flow in the bar. It's looking at you know, what happened earlier. Again, I don't want to necessarily go into all the details because for some of you guys, you all get a bit bored about what it's looking at. But it's looking at the order flow, you know, what's trading on the bid, what's trading on the offer, how it's trading on the bid, how it's trading on the offer, you know, imbalances. Yeah, you know, you like to see obviously some buying imbalances in a bar. You know, this one's got 3, this one's got 2. But really what it's looking at is a combination of how this volume is traded, right? How this volume is traded, okay? And that's important because what you want, right? You want to have good size volume go through. And when you have good size volume going through in a bar, you have better participation, right? You can see some bars here, right? Look at this bar, 624 contracts, okay? Here's a bar with 7 contracts. Here's a bar with 59, 85, 300, 285, 334, 168. Here's 424. Now I have the volume filter turned off, okay? But you know, here's 423, here's 526. You know, no signals there. So it's analyzing how this trading is happening in the bar. You know, making sure that it's the type of traders that you want that are going to help continue the move in that direction. Okay, and you know, whether you're looking at, you know, ultra bond chart. Now here's the market. Just this bar just went sideways, right? Here was a signal. Yeah, it went up, but then it just literally went sideways for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 bars, right? And to be honest, after about 5 minutes of a market going sideways, that's not a good trade to be in, right? I know some people say, well, you know what, the market can go, you know, it can turn around and go up, right? Well, it can just as easily turn around and go down. I don't like to sit in a trade for, you know, 5, 10 minutes with the market just hanging around the open price, especially if you're coming in right into the cash open, okay? Because, you know, people could start dumping stocks or whatever, but nevertheless, you know, as a trader, and this doesn't have to do with, you know, Flowshifts or Flowscalper or anything, just being in a trade where it's just going sideways on you, just sort of burning your money a hole, you know, not a hole in your pocket, but just burning your money up, and you know, you're underwater for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. You're just sort of hanging around. That's your opportunity to get out. Can it turn around and go up? Yeah, but I like the trades that work out and work out quickly, right? I don't want to sit here looking at my watch. Oh my gosh, I've been in this trade for 10 minutes. It's not going anywhere, right? That's not what you want to be in a trade with, right? You want it to start happening sooner rather than later, okay? You know, this was a buy right here. Obviously, it's taking into account what's happening in this bar, also in relation to what was just happening earlier, right? It's kind of dead here, right? You see the volumes really starts to pick up here. Why is volume pick up? Well, sometimes, you know, it's means that there's more traders coming in, right? It could be a big trader, it could be a bunch of smaller, bigger traders. You know, I don't want to say it's a bunch of retail traders coming in, but you know, you want to have healthy participation in a bar, right, where you're getting a signal, right? You know, here's one, it just sort of went down a little bit sideways, you know, but again, you know, here's one where it picked up, and this was a nice trade to have, you know, if you can scalp out, you know, 5, 6 ticks. You know, 5 ticks in the ultra bonds is $150, right? So, you know, you want to have something that is going to give you signals, you know, good signals, reliable signals. Now, how does this differ from another market like crude oil? Okay, so this is crude today. Okay, crude, you know, just go back to the day session here. So my crude settings are a bit different. Okay, so you can see here, I'm just going to show you now on a normal bar chart. It's a little easier for some people to digest. This crude chart I have literally set at the basic levels. Again, right now I'm talking about 1 minute charts, but you know, I see there's a question in there about longer term charts, which I'll address a little bit later. but this is about as basic as you can get. Low volume markets, normal markets. I don't have volatile markets for crude oil. I have no swing filter. I do use delta confirmation. Honestly, if you disable delta confirmation, you will get a few more signals. It's not like it's night or day, but if you use bar delta divergence, you're gonna get a lot less signals, right? Because that's asking for something where it's the opposite, right? Where you have an up bar with negative delta or a down bar with positive delta. But I have balance strength at 1 and balance points at 1. You know, on the Ultra Bond, I had balance strength at 1 and balance points at 3, I think it was. Where's my Ultra Bond chart? Right, just show you the difference here. Or sorry, balance strength at 3 and balance points at 1. So it's the opposite, balance strength 3, balance points 1. But on crude, right, it's different, right? Because crude trades differently than ultra bonds, right? So here you can see I'm just using balance strength 1, balance points 1. Yeah, I could change it to 3 if you want to see what the difference is, right? Just take a look here. Okay, so this is set to 1 and 1, right? You see a lot of signals, right? And again, I have the swing filter turned off, so it's going to give me more signals. If I have swing filter turned on, it's going to take out this. It's going to take out a lot of these signals, right? I like to use crude is a market that I like to, there's a lot of nice moves, right? It doesn't look like sometimes there's much moves on the chart, but on crude, yeah, 30, 40 cents, there's a lot of those 30, 40 cent moves intraday in the crude. Okay, so here I'm turning the filter, or sorry, not the filter, the strength to 3. I should have showed you before I clicked it, but just so you get a different perspective of the market. So just give it a second to come up here. You know, just really quick, some Marshall. Okay, I'll check your thing why you haven't gotten it. Okay, so now here, right, before I had balance strength 1, right, I changed it to 3. There's still signals, right, but it's slightly less than before, okay? I mean, I prefer to have 1 and 1 on crude, but, you know, as you start getting into, you know, times like, you know, the night session, because I watch the night session a lot, having the strength set at 3, you're going to get less signals, okay, at night. But I found, you know, during the day and at the night, overnight session, it's fine to keep it at 1 and 1 in the crude. Obviously, ultra bonds I just talked about, you know, on the footprint chart. But again, you know, ultra bonds, again, it's a great market. A lot of people don't necessarily follow it, but you know, everyone's all interested in MNQ. They're interested in ES. Yeah, and I know people are interested in MNQ because there's a lot of people posting on Twitter their gains, right? And it's seductive, honestly. But there's so many other markets out there, right? And ultra bonds is a great market to trade, you know, especially at night, right? I mean, you're not getting many trades at night, but you know, this is a move here, right? I mean, crosshairs is a different color here. Change you to black. But you know, look at, you know, 24 up to 29. Here it's 5 ticks. Again, you know, a move from 29 to 02, 03, right? You know, this one, okay, you take the loss because stopped you out, fine. But you know, you lose 3, 4 ticks here, but you got 5 here, 5 there. You know, it's a great market. You know, he had a nice move here in the ultra bonds, and that's at the night session, right? Look at these moves in the day session on ultra bonds. Yeah, you're gonna have there will be trades that don't work out, like this one. Okay, this one again, you know, started to go, but then it just went sideways on you. This one started to go, just went sideways on you. You know, at some point, you know, as a trader, you got to pull the trigger on when to get out of a trade that's not working out. Okay, so I turned back here, right? This is back to the crude, right? I put it back on its original settings. Just give you an idea, right? Just, I mean, you go back, you know, you can see the night session. There was when I had the settings of 3 and 1, there was less signals in the night session, right? It didn't catch this move here down, you know, didn't catch this move up. I mean, look at this on the night session, 6 o'clock, 58.70, you know, went up to 58.90, pulled back to 70 before going all the way up to, you know, what is that, 25.30, right? That's the night session, right? That's why we have, you know, this extra filter for low volume markets. You know, again, originally I used to call it night session, but that's why I keep it on. It's an extra sort of signal there. I mean, you know, this is a nice move here. It doesn't look like much, but again, this is one of those moves from 25 up to 65. You know, that's a 40-cent move. Again, you know, nice signals here in the crude. Again, this is just using the basic one. But again, you know, you gotta have your stops in there, right? Because sometimes it's not going to give you, you know, not every single trade is going to be the winning trade, right? Now, if I have this turned off, this swing filter, let me just turn it off here. Again, right now, I have the swing filter disabled. If I enable it, okay, just make this a little bit smaller in here. Okay, so you see these trades here, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, maybe this one, this one. A lot of these trades will disappear, right? Because there's essentially, there's no swing filter. This one will disappear because, well, this one will still appear, I think. Let's take a look at the difference, okay? So just, you know, again, why I have this, the swing filter is many markets I use it, but there's some markets where, you know, there's just so many nice little intraday moves that I really want to be alerted to them. So give it a second here to come up. Now swing filter is set to 1. If you're going to use the swing filter, the minimum setting is 1, right? You can't set it to 0, you just disable it. Okay, so you know all those shorts here. So here's the long down here. Again, you know, you have signal here, you get stopped out. Okay, fine, right? You had a move here, and you got a nice little move down there, all right? And so you're seeing, again, you know, a move from what, 70 up to 30, right? So you take a small loss, a small loss, a small loss, then boom, you get your 60 ticks there. All right. But again, you know, that's what the swing filter, that's the difference on the swing filter. Again, and depending on how you trade, again, you know, it is going to determine if you're going to use the swing filter or not and the market. Now, Bunds, okay, well, Bunds, this one here, I have both the Flowscalper and the Flowshifts on. The Flowshifts are blue and red. Flowscalper is green and orange, okay? So let me just try to make this so you can see there's not really very much overlap, right? Flowscalper here, Flowshifts here. Flowscalper, Flowscalper, then Flowshifts, Flowshifts, Flowscalper, Flowscalper here, right? Flowscalper here, 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 Flowshifts here, right, on this move up. See, they're analyzing different things. You know, I don't want to say it will never be in the same bar because, you know, order flow is so dynamic. There is a chance that you may have two signals at once. And honestly, I've done some testing, and honestly, what I like to look for is what I call the groups, the groupings of signals, right? Like, you know, 2 of Flowshifts, 1 of Flowscalper, all right, together, like that, 3 and 2, so to speak. You know, I'm not sure if this bar had them both on the same one, or if it's different by just 1 bar here, right? It looks like it's different by 1 bar here. But again, you know, I'm sort of looking for those groupings sort of complement each other. I'm not looking for, you know, sort of one and then the opposite. Really, if you see them grouped together, you know, pay attention to them. Again, but you see they're coming in at different points, right? Blue and red is Flowshifts, the green and orange is Flowscalper. But again, you know, this was just a basic setting that I threw on. You know, I could adjust the setting. I have just Flowscalper set at, what is that, 3 and just basically 3, right? Whereas the flow shifts, I've got 3 and 1, and I'm using the swing filter here. I don't have the swing filter, right? If I want to add a swing filter, it's going to change how it looks on the chart, right? So I'm getting obviously a lot less signals, right? This is mostly flow shifts here, flow shifts, Flowscalper here. The orange is the Flowscalper. I'm not getting any buys on this day, right? Until a little bit later in the day, right here, right? You're starting to see them both come in. So, here these two are literally almost the same bar, but they're just slightly different bars. I can tell just by how they're offset. But again, that's the flow shifts and Flowscalper. Now, this is MNQ, okay? Now, I have two different charts here I'll show you on MNQ. These are both 1 minute charts, but the settings are slightly different here. What is this one here? This one is my tighter one. So it's swing period of 2, 1, and 3 balance points. This one has a swing filter of 10, 3 and 1 balance points, right? 3 and 1. This one is also 1 and 3, so it's the opposite there. 1 and 3. Here you have a swing filter of 2, right? This is a swing filter of 10. So it's really, with a swing filter of 10, right, it's finding basically new lows, clear new lows, areas that can be conceived as turning points, right? Excuse me. I mean, look at this move this afternoon, 2 o'clock, right? We had a move here at 3 o'clock, or sorry, 1 o'clock. This was about a 40-point move. Doesn't look like much on this chart because we have this big gigantic move that came into new highs late in the day. But it's a move basically from whatever this is here, 720 all the way up to here. This is already 840, 860. They're just going to make cleans up everything, right? Here was a move here, here was a move here, here was a nice move up here, here was a little move down, a little move down. This is just right around that cash opening time. You always got to be careful around cash open because the amount of volume that comes in on the cash open, I don't want to say distorts the calculations, but all of a sudden, you got 5 times as much volume coming in on the cash open that you're going to get, signals when it's a time when you probably really shouldn't be participating in the market. Let the market find its footing. Give it a few minutes to find its footing. Now this is also MNQ, right? But this time it's set to a little bit quicker, right? Swing filter is set to 2, but this time the balance strengths and balance points are flipped, right? Before it was 3 and 1, now it's 1 and 3. Now you're seeing a lot of the same signals here, but the difference is you don't have the sell signal here, you don't have a sell signal here. I don't think you had a buy signal here on the other chart, right here, right? So again, depending on how you set it up and the market that you're trading, there's these slight differences, right? Mini Dow, YM, this chart is set to a volatile markets, low volume, normal markets. I have a swing period of 1, delta confirmation I have on all my charts. Excuse me. Balance strength is 1, balance points is 2, right? Trade entry signal is on. So you can see, right? Again, this low, up to here, there's actually, if I didn't have trade entry signal on, it would give me a short here, just as it gave me a short here and a buy here, some shorts here. I can see, you can barely see these little zones being drawn out. But the reason why you don't see any up or down arrows is because, where is it here? Trade entry signal is on. You don't have the follow through order flow. So let me just make it a little bit darker here so you can see it a bit easier. Let me change that to 75. Because if the trade entry signal was off, then it's just going to draw the arrow every time there's a signal. okay? But I use the trade entry signal to tell me that you have that follow through order flow. Again, why would you take a trade when there's no follow through order flow, right? Because if you don't have that, if that's missing from the market, chances are the market's not going to move in the direction that you want it to move, right? So let's see here. Close this. So you can see here, right? This red, this red, this red, this red. Trade entry signal is on, but you don't have the actual trade arrow, right? And that's important because if you're using markers, which reads that plot, right, that up or down triangle, that's what's being read by markers. It's not this zone. This is just telling you, hey, you know what? Conditions are met in the order flow that the signal would normally appear here, but now it's waiting before it draws this arrow, right? That's why you see the triangle rather. It's not appearing on the bar with the zone drawn out, right? It's appearing on the bar afterwards because it's the bar afterwards that's got the confirming order flow, right? So imagine, right, if you're just trading the signals blind, right? I don't recommend trading signals blind in that sense. Maybe you bought here. If you don't get stopped out on this little dip, right, then you got something here, right? Or if you sold this one, right, it rallied back up a little bit before it sold off. Here just sort of went sideways and stopped you out. Here it just immediately stopped you out. Obviously here stopped you out. But if you have the trade entry signal on, where's your triangles? Here, 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 right? So you're not taking this trade. You're not taking this trade or this trade or this trade or this trade. You're taking this one, taking this one. You're taking this one, right? Those are the trades you want, right? The trades that are going to have the higher chance of winning are the trades that have that follow through order flow, right? You want that order flow to be in the direction of the move, okay? Because if it's not giving you that confirmation, so to speak, if the other traders, right? Because what the flow shift did is it's read that bar, obviously in relation to everything else that was going on, and said, you know what, the conditions there are met, right? Based on that, on the order flow, that this is either bullish or bearish, right? It's reading that this is bullish here, okay? What's happened here at this low is bullish. Now, all that's left to do is have that confirmation that the market is moving in your direction, right? Just as it said, well, you know what, we rallied up here, okay, and now it's bearish. Okay, but over the next two bars, while the conditions in the signal bar are bearish, the next two bars, you still got a little bit of buying pressure left, right? And if you get short, and you have a stop just, somewhere behind this area, you're stopped out. You just took a loss, right? You want the trades that are working now, right? I mean, in the sense that the order flow is there to confirm it, right? That it's moving in your direction, okay? So obviously, you could see, you don't want to be short here, especially if a market like today, right, it just picked up a big head of steam and just moved, right? There was nothing stopping this move today, right? You try to short, you're killed, right? But the trade entry signal told you, you get long because the conditions are met, right? The sort of the longer term traders are getting involved down here, in here. And, as the market's rallying, maybe it's people trying to get out, take some profits because you know what, this market was rallying. It's not uncommon for traders to take profits on a rallying market, okay? But the market just kept going, right? Here's a nice move here. Here's a little move here, but again, you would have been long from down here. Again, this is the cash open time right in here. Obviously, things are different in the night session here. You get some smaller moves. It doesn't look like much, but it's a move from whatever this is, 40 all the way up to 70. Here was a move, but the trade entry signal didn't kick off, right? That's why you have no triangle here. So it was a move. Trade entry signal is turned on, so it didn't give you a buy. It didn't give you the red down triangle there, right? Here's a couple buys here. Now this is 2 in the morning, right? Most people, know, if you're living in Europe or Asia, you know, you could be trading at that time. Right? You don't need to wait till the US hours open up. This was a short here, but yeah, we were just already selling off. Again, did it go lower? Yeah, you know, it went lower about 10, 15 ticks. Last night, 6 o'clock, 6:07, boom, look at that. It's a move from whatever price this is, 31 to 33, you know, anywhere here, right? Because this is the signal bar right here, this one, right? So 26 is the high. As long as it trades 28, it's telling you you want to participate. Get long anywhere above 28 and above, you know, all the way up to 80. I'm not saying you would have sold right up here, but you know, you're getting long at 30, you know, you'd be happy, you know, at 6 o'clock at night, you know, you're happy to sell at 60. It's quick 30 points. This was yesterday. Again, you know, some nice moves down, a nice move up. Again, this one, you just get stopped out, you know. But again, trade entry signal keeps you out of this trade, out of this trade, out of this trade, right? That's why I have the trade entry signal put in there, right? You take this trade, you take your loss, okay? You know, you get short again, you get it back. You know, again, just some signals in the night session here. You know, this one, you know, they didn't work out. I mean, depending on where you have your stop, if you have a 10-point stop, you don't get stopped out yet. You know, when it rallies up from whatever this is, 27 up into the 40s, but this one failed, okay? But you had a nice trade right here, right, from 41. This is at 10 o'clock 2 days ago, right, from 40 all the way down to 10, right? Again, you know, just go back. I mean, you can see these signals, okay? You know, move down and move up, right? There's not many signals on this day. I mean, there's some nice signals down here earlier, but you know, on this day, market was under some pressure late. Some selling signals came in. Now, E-minis, again, this one is set to pretty quick, I think. Yeah. Swing filter in this case is turned off. This one is all on. Low volume markets, normal markets, volatile markets. Balance strike set to 1 and 2. E-minis is a great market to trade, obviously, at night. It trades a lot of volume, right? Look at this from last night in the reopen. Right, they caught that move up, caught that move down, right? Go back. I mean, obviously the day before, you know, a lot of nice signals. I mean, today with the, you know, there's a lot of back and forth action today. You know, there was some good moves to be had, but the thing with E-minis, you know, it's the biggest contract out there in terms of volume that's meaningful. And, you know, I just find it a little bit easier to trade some of these smaller markets. I mean, there's a lot of nice moves to be had. You know, I know guys that are using the software, they're just, their target is 2 ticks, or sorry, not 2 ticks, 2 points, 8 ticks. You know, and they do it over and over. But I mean, really, you know, I like to fish where there's not a lot of people fishing, so to speak. You know, I like to look at the early morning, you know, the European hours, or even the Asian hours, right, for opportunities, because there's a lot of nice opportunities to be had during that time when sort of the, you know, I'm not competing against the entire world, right? The amount of volume that goes through in the night session is, you know, about a third of what the volume is during the day. But you know what? If I could catch a move or two in the night session, it's been a good night, right? It doesn't have to be a 10-point move, you know, a 2-point move here, a point move there, you know, all that stuff adds up, right? And again, this one is set kind of loose because I got volatile markets on, I've got swing filter off, and I got the balance strength set at almost the lowest, balance points, you know, set at the lowest. But again, if I, you know, even set that balance points to 1, you know, it's going to give you something else. I'll show you what. Let me tighten it up. You know, I'll set it to 3 and 3. Just to give you an example. 3 and 3 is, I think 3 and 2 is the default settings, but 3 and 3 is not normal strength, but it's a bit strong. Okay, So you're going to see less signals. So just give it a second here. So, tomorrow, like I said, tomorrow we got a special presentation with Pablo from the indicator store and talking about how you can automate this tool or any other of my tools with markers, right? And that's incredibly helpful for a lot of people that will want to be trading at the night session and don't want to be sitting in front of a computer, or during the day session, trying to enter trades, thinking, oh, do I take it? Do I not take it? Let the computer do that for you. And do that. So once this comes up, give it a second here. I'm just going to take a look at some quick questions here. Guido asks, let me see here, this question. Can you please comment from the order flow point of view, today's chart image, which I'm attaching with Delta? Okay, hold on. Let me see your link here. If I can click it, because he's asking me about a specific chart. Did it come up? Highlighted circles are the most interesting points I would like to hear your comments on. Okay. All right, let me just talk about this chart here, this E-mini chart real quick. So again, now I've set it to 3 and 3, right? And you can see the signals here. Again, it's a lot less signals, right? The trade entry signal is turned on, right? So it's not giving you this buy here, this buy here. It's giving you this one, right? It's giving you the order flow, letting the order flow continue in that direction. So you got this short, you got this short, you got this short, right? Right, because the order flow is confirming, right? You got this long, you got this long. You got this long that just sort of went up and then just went sideways. But again, it's a stricter setting, right? So you got this long, you got this short, you got this little short here. So again, depending on the setting, depending on the market, you got to find your sweet spot depending on how you trade. Okay, so Tim asked a question here: what's a good setting for an E-mini 1-minute chart? Well, it depends on you and your risk tolerance. I suggest starting at the standard 3 and 2, which I think is the default, right? Let's what's the default here? Whoops, that's Flowscalper. Flowshifts, right? 3 and 2, 1, right? This is the default. I'll take off the one that I was using just now. We'll give it a chance. This is good for scalping. Yes, that's the question Payman asked. All right, so while that's coming up here, there's a question about this chart. What does he say? At this link you can use for downloading. Highlighted circles are the most interesting points. I would like to hear your comments about. What? Okay, it's a 7 range. Guido, if you're still in there, what time is this? Is this like Chicago time, or? Well, this is probably okay. This is probably like GMT or something. Because I think this is the close right here, right? Because it says March 29th, so that would be Monday already. But this area, well, let's pull it up. This is 7 range chart. Let's pull up 7 range. I don't have 7 range on here. I got 8 range, but let's add a 7 range. 7. Okay. Okay, I gotta change this one here to 7. All right. While it's coming up, let me see some other questions here. I went to the OF website, Orderflows website, and see this available on NinjaTrader. Never used NinjaTrader before. Don't know whether the NT costs money. Yeah, NinjaTrader, it costs money, but this will run on the free version of NinjaTrader. And So as long as you have a data feed, right, you could use the free version of NinjaTrader. Okay, obviously you're going to want a real-time data feed. Okay, so you still got to pay for that. Honestly, what the best way to get a cheap data feed is you download the software, throw in a couple $100 into the account, and tell them you want the data feed, right? So you get the discounted data feed. Um, I've got paid versions that I use, as well as, on others, like on this computer, this is sort of my testing computer, or like my backup computer that I do a lot of other things on. It's not my trading computer, right? This is my computer for emails and all sorts of stuff that, I'm running it on the free version on this PC, but my trading PC obviously is the paid version. If you're going to trade and you're going to have an account with NinjaTrader, you're just better off getting the paid version. And to be honest, they always run these offers every once in a while where, instead of $10.99, you can get it for $9.99 or something like that. But it'll run on the free version. I have people that use the software, they use the free version, and they just enter their trades through their broker supplied front end, which is usually like Sierra Charts or some modified Sierra Charts version that they have a white label for. So it'll run on the free version, it'll run on the paid version. But again, if you're trading, you're better off just upgrading to the paid version of NinjaTrader, okay? Because it unlocks certain features, things like, well, I'll say advanced charting, but what is it? Things like this, right? This is the things that you're going to want to use, right? You're going to want to use ATM strategies, right? That's big, right? Because as soon as you enter a trade, you could have stuff programmed in there, so it's going to enter your take profit and your stop loss. Obviously you can enter OCOs, things like that. For trade entry, you're definitely going to want to have that. Okay, so I assume this is on that chart. It's probably these circled areas. Okay, so now this is set to, these are the standard defaults, right? This is 3 and 2. My other chart I had 1 and 2. I think I had swing filter turned off. I'm curious to see what it's going to look like on a 7 range chart. Honestly, I don't use a 7 range chart. I used to use 4 range chart and 8 range charts before Trump became president, because the markets were a bit more orderly. And problem on a range-based charts is you could put in a lot of bars very quickly, okay? And by the time you get in, the market's already moved. And I just found it a little bit saner to use a time-based chart as opposed to a range-based chart. But again, you could use a 4 range chart, you could use an 8 range chart, you could use a 7 range chart, you could use volume-based charts, right? I'll pull up a volume-based chart, after this. James, would order flow 3 be better? Well, the question I get a lot is, sometimes people buy like this Flowshifts and they're thinking they're getting a footprint chart. No, you're not. You're getting an indicator which will run on a footprint chart or a bar chart, right? Honestly, I think Orderflows 3.0 is better, because you're forcing yourself to read the market and understand it. Now, I use indicators for my own trading because there's really, if you're looking at, the order flow, unless, you're familiar with the market and the order flow, it can be not tricky, not deceiving, but it's a lot to digest, right? It's a lot of information, right? Are you going to know to buy this bar, right? Are you going to know to sell up here? And especially on a market that's, this is ultra bonds, but if you go to a market that's, a bit slower, or sorry, that moves differently, trades a lot of volume, and you start seeing a lot of trades, because obviously, if you trade something like wheat, then you go in and you trade something like, E-minis or MNQ or something, the markets move very differently, all right? So honestly, I think it's, if you really want to understand the markets, right? Because again, Flowshifts, Flowscalper, Pulse, they just read 3 different things about the order flow, okay? And I said, unless you know what you're looking at, it's going to be, looking at a footprint chart ain't going to change your trading, right? So there's a learning curve, right? And that's why I create indicators so people can, use the indicator and sort of follow along and start to understand why something's happening in the market, okay? Because, if you don't understand, well, why is this market moving so quickly? Well, it's because, one, it could be lack of volume, or two, it could be a big buyer, or three, it could be like a market sweep right here. You're not gonna be able to put it together quickly enough, and that's where having a tool like an indicator is going to help you, right? Like here, right? Market rallied up, right? Boom, rallied up, came off a little bit, and then you're seeing the nice big buying come back in here, right? And the market made another move back up, right? Just as here on this way down, there was a buy signal here, there was a sell signal there, right? I like to look at the footprint chart to help me manage a trade, right? Even though I get in based on, Flowscalper or shifts or pulse or something, I still have to manage that trade. I'm not somebody that's, I like it when a trade goes to my profit target, but I don't necessarily like it when it goes directly to my stop, right? If I see something in the order flow, right? If say I'm short here, right, at 15, right, off this bar, okay, right in here, and I gotta take profit at 05, right, 10-point take profit, right, which is down here, right, off this chart, right, 05 is down here. And then I see the market moving, yeah, this is great, all right? Then it starts to turn around, right? I'm short from here, 14, 15 rather, and I see this bar with, all this aggressive buying coming in. I'm thinking, I missed my opportunity here at 05. All of a sudden, I see all this aggressive buying coming in. That's my sign to get out. I'm not going to wait till it takes me out at break even or worse, stops me out at a loss, right? Reading the order flow is going to help you manage your trade. But again, it's tools like Flowshifts, are there to help you understand, hey, there's something happening here in the order flow that's bearish. Okay, I can get short. All right. But then if I notice things are changing down here, it's time for me to get out. No shame in getting out, if you're reading the order flow and you realize conditions changed in the market. Now, sort of going back to this 7 range, right? Again, I had the default setting up there earlier, but now I changed it to my preferred setting, right? Swing filter off. Because if you're using a range-based chart, right, you're probably going to want to have swing filter off, okay? And 1 and 2, right? 1 strength, 2 balance points. All right, I could even use 2 and 2. It's not going to be that big a difference. But this was that first circle that you had. This was the second circle that you had, right? Obviously, the market moved up. I have the trade entry signal turned on. That's why there's this buy didn't trigger here, this sell didn't trigger here. But this was the day in the E-minis, right? And again, the thing with a range-based chart, this is a 7 range chart, right? If a market is moving very fast, you're going to put in a lot of bars. It's not something you necessarily notice so much in E-minis, especially on a 7 range chart. But if you're using a 4 range chart, you're going to have a lot of bars in here, right? If you're using a 7 range, I wouldn't even use a 7 range on MNQ. If you're using NASDAQ, right, and you got a 10 range chart, you can have, some of these bars here. I mean, look at this, right? For example, this bar right here, this bar on MNQ, right? This, you're talking, 5.5 all the way up to, 30, 30.5, 30 and a quarter, you say 29.5. So 29.5 to 5.5, what is that? That's over, it's a 24-point range in one bar. So imagine if you're using, a 10 range, chart on MNQ, I mean, in this one bar, you've got what, 4 bars. All right, so just bear that in mind. James asked about, packages. Well, if you pick up Flowscalper, it takes you to a page to get you the other ones slightly cheaper price. Can you show how you use balance strength on the footprints? Well, it's yeah. I mean, I can try. I don't know if people will understand it because it's kind of complicated actually. But you have balance in a bar, right? And you have balance over what just happened, right? So you got different balance points, okay? And sometimes the market is in balance and sometimes it's out of balance. It's when the market wants to start moving out of balance, right? That's when um, the moves happen, right? Because the market's going to move from balance to balance, so to speak, right? It's going to move out from a balance area to a new balance area, and that's when the move happens. So balance area 1 to balance area 2, right? You see how the market goes sideways here, right? Market was going a little sideways here, then it's gone sideways here. Now, based on this order flow, there's no signal, but usually when a market is going sideways, that's also a sign of balance. There's a lot of different signs of balance happening in the market. There's no one thing in the market that says, this is what balance is, period, and you have to accept it. But it's a little hard to explain in that sense. James, I wrote an indicator for the limit book and delta. Okay, yeah, tell me more about it. Send me an email. Can you? Let's see this other question here, Antonius. Are the indicators KWS, are the indicators painted at bar close? Well, no. There's there's a trade entry signal and there's not the trade entry signal. If you have the trade entry signal turned on, right, that's this right here, right? In this case, it's turned off. As soon as this bar conditions are met, right? This is your short here, right? As soon as the conditions are met in this bar, then it will signal, right? As this bar is forming, right? It can change, it can not change, right? Conditions can be met, it could come to not met, right? But once the bar closes, then it won't change. Once it's there, okay? Now, that's with the trade entry signal off. If you have the trade entry signal on, okay, let me just turn it on here real quick because I have also the zones off. Or I'll tell you what, I'll just use this example here. Okay, so for example, this zone is telling me there's a trade, the conditions are met for the trade signal. Now it's not printing the actual entry until the next bar, once the next bar moves. Once that next bar moves, as long as it moves by 2 ticks over the next 2 bars, it's going to print. Even if that bar reverses and closes down 10 points, it's still going to be there, okay? So that won't print. If you have the trade entry signal off, right, it would just, as soon as this bar right here gives me the trade entry, as soon as the conditions are met, right, even if, it's a 1-minute chart, 30 seconds in there, conditions are met, it will draw the arrow, it'll draw the zone. But if at 58 seconds the conditions change, that it's no longer met, then the arrow will disappear and the zone will disappear. Okay, so it really depends on the setting that you're using. Now, in markers, there's a function there that's called on bar close. Okay, and that was an important feature of markers, if you're trying to automate the signal, because as the bar is going back and forth as it's trading, right, you you don't want to be taking a trade, not taking a trade, taking a trade, because it can go back and forth, right? But it really, the way I trade, right, is I've always waited for the bar to close, because bars change, right? You got 1 minute, you're looking at a 1-minute bar. You don't really want to trade a 1-minute bar, but you're only going to trade 45 seconds of it. No, you got to wait for the bar to close. I always wait for the bar to close. So if I get a signal, even if I know it's there, it's forming, I still wait for the bar to close, right? I'm not going to all of a sudden change, how I'm trading because there's a signal or not. Let me just add another thing here. 1597 Tick chart. All right. Take a look at some more questions here. Antonius asks, can you please explain further the difference between balance strength and balance points? I assume balance strength is the like flow strength. Yes, it's like that. I'm not clear on balance points, so I'm looking at what it is looking at and why we should set it 2 as opposed to 1. Yeah, you know, it's how to describe it. Like I'm trying to think of a analogy so that would help you make perfect sense of it. Imagine a seesaw, right? We all know what a seesaw is. Get a picture here. Make sure. Okay, so you know a seesaw, right? You know, people are balanced on a seesaw, right? Simple, right? Here, right? 2 kids on a seesaw. Imagine you're adding another person on, you know, with the guy in the blue, right? You add another person on there, right? And then you add another person on. That's, you know, think about that. You know, that's a way to describe sort of the balance points. You know, how many times it's, you know, you're sort of adding on more and more to it. You know, for example, you know, or a tug of war, right? We all know what a tug of war is, right? You've got the, you know, for example here, right? Tug of war. There's going to be times where it's balanced, right? 4 and 4, but there's times where it's not going to be balanced, right? You could have, let's see if I can find one that's not balanced here, right? You've got 3 and 2, right? So that's sort of where the balance points come in, right? Whether it's starting to go a little bit offsides by, you know, 1 or you know, you're adding 1 on to, you know, sort of the, I don't want to say the offer side or the bid side, but you know, you're adding more pull on one side, so to speak. Okay. So this is because I put this because Miguel asked about, you know, he says he trades a 1597 tick chart. So it's a 1597 tick chart. Again, you know, I'm always fascinated at the different charts people trade because there's so many, you know, everybody trades differently, right? So this is a 1597 tick chart with the settings that I was using on my other chart, right? Low volume market, normal market, swing filter off, balance strength 1, balance points 2, okay? You know, it looks, I think it's a decent chart to trade. You know, it's not one that's moving very fast. It's not, you know, a 4 range chart that's moving very fast, or, you know, I've seen people try and trade a 233 tick chart and then they come to, it's moving too fast. Well, yeah, it's moving too fast because you're on such a short range chart. But, you know, it's a nice chart and nice moves here, right? Obviously, you know, I forget about this move at the end of the day. That was just epic. But, you know, during the day, the main session, you know, some nice moves up, nice moves down, nice moves up, you know, a little sideways in here, some nice move up, nice moves down, nice moves down, nice move up. You know, how about now in the night session, obviously, when you're dealing a tick chart, right, you're getting a lot less bars because it's going to take, you know, it takes time to form this volume because like from this high, right, this is what 130 all the way just to here, where are we, 6 down here is what, 6. You know, you had that big move down, but you know, it's a lot smaller than it really looks because it's a tick based chart, right? So it's not uniform in that sense. How about the day before? All right, how does it look? Well, obviously, again, you got that nice late rally, got a little move down here, a little move up there. You know, this one just sort of went sideways. Again, this one, the trade entry signal is on. That's why it's not giving this buy or this sell or this sell or this sell or this sell. You know, there's some nice moves here, you know, on the 1597 tick chart. Let's see what else we got here. Questions. Bomi asked about pricing. It's Well, right now it's it's on a special offer, so it's something that is not going to get better than that, honestly. And in the future, it's going to go up. Balance point, I just sort of answered that. 15 range NQ. Okay, well, if I got 15 on here, oh, I got 15. This is MNQ, but questions about NQ. So I'm curious myself. Let's give it a second to come up here. Is there a webinar recording on the Pulse? I missed it, Venkat. Yeah, there is. It's on YouTube, but yeah, I'll flip it over to you. How to use on higher time frames? Can you be a little bit more specific on which time frame? Stephen, I'm pulling up the 15 range chart. Kevin asks about tomorrow. Yeah, we're going to be sending out a email about that a little bit later. Guido, yeah, it's time change. You're on Euro time. I sort of figured that out. Should be answered your question there. What is this? Why can't Johnny Z asks, why can't you have other indicators up when you're using this? You can. So David asks about Sierra charts. No, I don't use Sierra charts. There's politics behind it, which I don't really want to get into, but I don't use Sierra charts, and it's not available for Sierra charts. RB asks, Markers Plus requires doubling the calculations on the chart as it internally creates a duplicate indicator. With flow shifts and markers running together, any sense on how many charts is a reasonable limit before Ninja starts to complain? I don't know the answer to that. I haven't experienced that issue, and that's something you should ask Pablo. But it's, what I've found, right, is if computers are very cheap now, right? And if you're just going to be running a bunch of charts for testing and stuff, you could pick up, a decent computer for that for, $300. Monitors are so cheap. You get decent monitors for less than $100 each, 24-inch, 27-inch even, for testing. And, keep your computer that you're going to load up a lot of stuff different than your trading computer. Honestly, if you have a trading computer, and you're running markers, right? You're not going to be loading 20 different charts up on it, right? I mean, you shouldn't be. I mean, why load up the computer that you're going to be using, as your go-to thing with other stuff that you just want to sort of follow along the market? That's me. Um, you know, I just think that it's better to have your trading computer run as, if you're running markers, just run it on the markers, run it on the markets that you're going to be trading it with, right? So I hope that answers that question, but that's more of a question for Pablo. Again, I just run it on a few different markets. I don't really load up the charts with stuff. Do I need tick replay if I only want to see live signals? Well, I always run tick replay. I always enable tick replay, right? Tick replay is this function right here. Make sure you have that enabled. That way it'll show up on your historical charts. If you don't have it, it should show up. If you don't have tick replay enabled, sometimes people don't want to have it enabled because they think it will slow down their computer. But there's a big difference between NinjaTrader 7 and NinjaTrader 8 on how it handles data. And the tick replay was sort of one of their big upgrades. That's sort of one of the reasons why it took NinjaTrader 7 how many years, or NinjaTrader 8 how many years to get to that point where they could release it. Is that. But again, if you want to streamline it, it should work. Honestly, I haven't tested it, but it should. Based, because I got emails from people saying, oh, it's not showing up on historical data. It only shows up when I load it on the chart and the new data comes in. So I'm assuming that it does. I honestly, I haven't tested it, but based on sort of the feedback that I got on people that didn't have tick replay enabled, is that it does work. What stop would I have if I trade E-minis? Well, again, it depends on your risk. I use wider stops, especially now in these market environments. got to realize the average rotation in the E-minis is like about 4 points, 4.5 points. And if you're within that rotation, you can sort of get stopped out pretty easily, right? You want to have your stop at a point where it's just not easily elected in sort of the normal rotation for the market. Bomi asks, yeah, if you haven't traded futures and you're looking for a broker, again, I don't like to recommend brokers, but you just go, if you're using NinjaTrader, use NinjaTrader brokerage, simple. Rob asked about executing via footprint chart. You know, if you're running markers, right, you could run markers. It'll run on the footprint chart as well as whatever thing you load it with, right? If you're using markers with the footprint chart, it'll still execute. Then you just manage the trade, right? So you can see here, I got Orderflows Trader, I got the Flowshifts on there. I don't have, I didn't start up markers, right? This is the markers in here, right? So it'd be marker, you just got to add it on there. And yeah, I manage it from the footprint chart. I manage all my trades from the footprint chart. What was that? NQ, right? The question was about the NQ 15 range chart. Yeah, this is the 15 range chart on NQ. Obviously, you know, you get some very sharp moves, but again, you know, I can't trade an NQ chart on a range-based chart. I just don't have the stomach for it. It just moves too fast for me. You know, even on a minute-based chart, it's too fast for me. When I think, oh, you know what, I got this NQ solved, I I try to get into these periods where I say I'm going to trade NQ, or not even NQ, MNQ rather. I trade it on a 30-second chart. That's just me, right? That's just me. What was the green and red line at the bottom of the black background on the E-mini chart? I'm not sure what the question was about. What was the green and red line on the bottom of the black background E-mini chart? I don't use black backgrounds. All my charts I change to white. I just find it easier on my eyes. So I'm not sure. Like these lines here, this is the low of the day. This would be the opening price. Up here, the green one up at the top is the high of the day. And that's just a simple NinjaTrader indicator, right? You scroll down in here. It's called, what is it? Current day open, high, low, close, right? That's this. You could actually even put the previous days on here. Prior day open, high, low, close, right? It's just nice to have a reference of, you know, hey, are we making new lows or are we making new highs? Or on days that are going sideways, are we just rotating around the opening price? Okay. Okay, let's see here. There are quite a few order flow indicators you have. Well, again, you know, it depends on your trading style, okay? You know, there's different indicators for different purposes, right? If you're looking for momentum-based indicators, because, you know, momentum-based trading accounts for, you know, most people they don't realize it, but most people are momentum-based traders. You know, so I got indicators for that. Then I have people that like to trade support or resistance, right? That would be something like the turns, okay? Or, you know, market strength or market weakness, right? That's another way people trade. So there's different indicators that read different things. Antonius asks, you know, he's looking to add another market. He's thinking of crude oil. Crude oil is a nice market. You know, wheat is okay, but it's wheat and 6E, you know, if you had a choice between crude oil, wheat, and euro currency, I would choose crude oil. You know, a minute is fine. 30 seconds is a little quick, but you know, maybe if crude starts rallying up to $100, you know, you might want to go to a 30-second chart because it's going to get a little bit more volatile up there. But you know, where it is now, you know, 1 minute chart is comfortable. Okay, can you trade order flow, you know, on a 15-minute or 30-minute chart? Not really, honestly. It's you know, order flow right? You're basically trading the freshness of the information. Okay, so if you're on a 30-minute chart and you see something that happened earlier, then yeah, it sort of lost its efficiency, right? And so, if I was trading, like this is a 1-minute chart, okay, so if I change it to just a 15-minute chart, right? You got to understand, right? I'm looking for what's happening right now in the market, right? I don't even know if there's going to be any signals on this 15-minute chart because so much can happen in 15 minutes or 30 minutes, right? So, yeah, are there signals? Yeah, there's some signals. There's a sell here, there's a buy here, there's a buy here. It's just one of those things where, it could have happened chances are, right? Like this signal here, okay? It probably happened very early. It's a 15-minute chart, maybe the first 3 minutes, okay? Then you got to wait the next 12 minutes right before taking the trade. Now, again, I know some people that will trade a 15-minute chart, and as soon as the conditions are met, try and scalp intra-bar, right? A few ticks like here, right? Like in this bar or in this bar. But honestly, you're really trying to trade the freshness of the information, okay? Larry, okay, Larry. You know what? I saw your email, Larry, about the next level courses. Let me double check because, honestly, you're the only one that's had that problem. But I'll double check on. Oh, you're asking if they're downloaded. No, they're not downloadable. I mean, I could go in there and change the setting so they're downloadable. But yeah, I'll do that after this presentation because the next level order flow course, which I released earlier in March, um, all my other courses, the videos have been downloadable, but this one, I don't think the settings were set to download the videos. But I can go in there and set it. Um, it's just a couple clicks on my end, but I'll take a look at that. Would markers work with fast signals? Yes. Um, yeah, markers does work with fast signals. That's what I use. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. I'm in London, UK. Is London session good volume trade? Yes, it is. For most markets, it is. I mean, volume really picks up during the London session, right? I mean, it's not as good, obviously. Volume is not the same as during the US session when Europe and the US cash markets are open, but it trades good volume. Johnny asked, do you trade lower time frames, say 15 seconds? I tried to, and problem with going down to 15 seconds is if you got any sort of latency, all right, it's not going to be very good for you. It's one thing if you got one of those, you got a server that's got that's pinging at like 2 milliseconds, and you can put something like markers on there and maybe take advantage of it. But for most of us, if you're trying to point and click, your reaction time is too slow anyway. um, it, and sometimes I noticed when the market is moving fast, NinjaTrader, because the data comes out there's so much volume going through. Imagine it's like a funnel, right? You're trying to squeeze all that volume through to get something out the other end. It just seems that you get into a trade, then you're stopped out even before, literally a second later. A 15-second chart is pretty quick. Because I've even looked at trading 5-second charts, but you really need to have get the latency down basically to do it. And honestly, the NinjaTrader is probably not the best platform for that. There's other platforms obviously that are much more expensive that you probably want to look at, but no, I don't look at that much anymore. Once in a while I'll take a cursory look at a 15-second chart, but for actual trading, as low as I go is 30 seconds. Out of all your indicators for order flow, which would you recommend for extracting 3 to 5 on ES, 4 to 8 on ZB? Well, again, Flowscalper is a terrific program. In the equity curve, people have been telling me their equity curve is stable. It's not erratic, so that's good. I haven't gotten the feedback from other traders yet on Flowshifts, but I think it's good. Obviously, Pulse is one of my favorites as well, because you know what, it's really, so often, right, a market is just sort of doing nothing and then just all of a sudden pops, right? Like here, right? Market just do, well, this was today, but whether, if you're looking at it during the day session, right, you see a market just sort of sitting there going sideways and then boom, it starts to pop, the momentum picks up, right? That's what the Pulse does, right? It looks for that, sort of those markets where you're just sort of sitting there waiting for something to happen, then it happens. So, all my tools are just sort of, they're like my babies. Do I like one more than the other? Well, it really depends on how I'm trading and what market I'm trading, because I can't use the Pulse on some markets because the volume is not enough. But things like E-minis or crude oil, volume is fine. Use for range volumetric along 10 minutes. Okay. 15-minute chart, please, with ES with better settings. Okay, hold on. Well, again, a 15-minute chart. Honestly, I haven't looked on a 15-minute chart because a lot of the, the data, right, is when you're looking at order flow, you're looking at what's happening right now. And you sort of, when you're looking at a 15-minute chart, you're really taking a step back, right? Really, as far as me personally, as far out as I go, is 5 minutes. I do look at 5 minutes, but other traders, don't. Venkat, if you're interested in the Pulse, shoot me an email because I got a special link for you on the Pulse, Venkat. If you don't have any of the software, which one should you get first? Well, it depends. Do you want to learn order flow first, or you want to start trading order flow first? If you want to learn order flow, I suggest go with Orderflows Trader, right? Then you start adding on the indicators to sort of help you out, see things in the order flow. Because once you start seeing signals happening, whether it's in the Pulse or Flowscalper or Flowtrader, Flowshifts, then you're going to be more in tune to trying to pick up things that are happening in the order flow. Does it work with Renko? No, because Renko charts, the way they form, no, it doesn't. It's, that you can't really back test Renko charts. How does Flowshifts compare with the Pulse? Okay, so anyway, I've got this 15-minute coming up. Yeah, it's taken some time because this 15-minute chart. It's got to go through these calculations. It says calculating there, but I think I got here. This is Flowscalper and Pulse. Flowscalper is the red and blue, the smaller arrows. The big ones are Pulse, right? The big purple and the light blue. I think it's called Dodger blue or something like that, just sort of give you an idea. But let's take off the Flowscalper, right? Because the question was Flowscalper and Pulse. The Pulse here, or sorry, Flowshifts and Pulse. Add there, okay. What did I have? I think I was using 1 and 2. This was off. Okay, well, that's coming up here. Momentum trades are trade pullback in a trend, high after higher high, higher low, or reverse in the volume drive pullback, then resumption of momentum in trend direction. Flowscalper, what indicator? Brian. Well, if you're trading momentum, I don't know, because I would say either Flowshifts or Pulse. Probably I would probably go with Pulse if you're trading pullbacks in a trend, because oftentimes you're going to see on a pullback, right? A market sort of pull back, then it pops up, right? You're sort of looking for that momentum. So Pulse is probably better in that regards. Farouj asks about the price. What's the current prices you charge for the Flowscalper? Well, Flowshifts is $369. If you get Flowshifts and you want to get Flowscalper, takes you to another link where you can get Flowscalper at a discounted price, but only if you buy Flowshifts. Venkat, just send it to my email. You got my email, Mike@Orderflows, and I'll get you that link out on the Pulse. I saw there were instances of volume markets. I think this is the last question. Okay, well anyway, this is the Pulse here, right, on the E-minis. Okay, it's still loading the flow shifts. All right, the Pulse is these big. I set it to differentiate the arrows just so you can see it differently. The Pulse is this magenta and this blue, whereas the flow shifts will be the red and the normal blue. Okay, Antonius asks, so there are instances you set volatile markets on ES and times volatile markets off. If, again, the reason I keep volatile markets off, really volatile markets, the whole point of that setting is for these markets, these bars that are very big, right? Because, volatility is, what is volatility, right? It's the market it's got to cover more ground to trade, basically, right? So that's why volatile markets, you're going to see much bigger bars than on non. So I don't keep it on all markets, but it's, again, and if I do have it on, honestly, there's not going to be many signals. If it's not a volatile market, and you can have it on, it's not going to affect it. It may just give you maybe one or two more signals, like in the E-minis. But if you have it off, it's just not going to give you those signals. It's not going to be a big night and day difference. It's going to be very small. Probably you're not even going to notice the difference, because if there's no volatility in the market, it's not going to give you those extra signals. So yeah, if it's not, definitely won't reduce the signals. It'll give you maybe more. But again, if it's not about, like I said, I keep it on ultra bonds, because sometimes that market volatility just jumps, right? And I don't want to miss something because I don't have that setting on. Okay, so Bomi, I went to the NT there, and NinjaTrader has NinjaTrader 8, right? When they released NinjaTrader 8, they released their version of the order flow tools, which is just a basic footprint chart. And maybe one or two other tools, like you could have Delta on the bottom, you could have a book map type thing in there as well, but it's not the indicator. And their footprint is different than mine in the sense that my order flows trader, right? Again, I don't want to make this about order flows trader, but I'll talk about it just briefly, just sort of give you sort of the brief overview, or order flows trader right here, order flows trader. And you can see in here, there's a lot of different settings, okay, for order flows trader. You can see you can have delta divergence, exhaustion prints, imbalance reversals, the different types of price ladders, more POCs, market sweeps, market weakness, something we call order flow sequencing. None of this information is available on the NinjaTrader order flow suite, right? Their suite is just this, a basic volume footprint chart. That's all. Okay, so because I get a question, sometimes people ask me, oh, I just bought your software, but I see in NinjaTrader they have the order flow chart. Well, yeah, but if you just want to look at the footprint and delta and point of control and where the imbalances are, okay, that's fine. You could use that. There's actually free versions of a footprint out there. But if you want to take it further and understand what you're looking at, looking for areas, I think I got a lot of the stuff turned off right here, right? If just sort of talking about prominent points of control, okay, do I have point of controls on here? I got it turned off here, but let me just turn it on really quick, just to sort of show you what what a prominent point of control is, because a question earlier was about prominent points of control. But anyway, while that's coming up, this is Flowshifts and Pulse on the same chart. Okay, so you're seeing there's not really any overlap. Signals are coming in at different places, right? And why? It's because it's reading different parts of the order flow, right? In this case, the pulse signal came before the flow shift signal, whereas here, right, the flow shift signal came before the pulse signal. Okay, so they're meant not to replace each other, but they sort of complement each other. Okay. But anyway, just while this chart's coming up here, right, this is a prominent point of control right here. Okay. Right, and what a prominent point of control is. It's a point of control that acts as support or resistance, right here. Right? Wouldn't you like to know that, hey, you know what, based on the order flow, there's support here, right? You can see how the market rallied up. Okay, that's like that's not available on the NinjaTrader system for order flow. Okay, all they're giving you is just the normal footprint chart. But anyway, that's that. And anyway, we're running on about 2 hours. So again, if you're interested in software, get it now while it's at this price, because it's going to go up later. It's going to jump in price. It's at 369. My programmer wants to put it at 497. So this is, this is a great time to take advantage of it at this price. So Tom asked, is there going to be a replay? Yeah, there'll be not a replay, but there'll be a recording. Not sure when I'll get it up, tonight or maybe over the weekend. So because tomorrow we got that one with Pablo. Let me see if I could find a link here for tomorrow's with Pablo, because I know some people are also interested in that. So just give me a second here. I'll get the link for tomorrow's. If you haven't joined, I'll be sending it out later anyway. But the link is there in the chat. Just click on it to join for tomorrow. Well, we'll see what Pablo's got for you tomorrow, Bomi. I haven't gone over it with him yet. We're just sort of chatting, but it's a tool, right? He's got a great tool. Markers is something that's been around for since NinjaTrader 7, and he's a good guy. Pablo is. He's very helpful. I've talked to him on many occasions, and it's nice that he's got a great tool for traders. It looks, the thing with software, right, is it's hard sometimes to get used to it. Whether it's trading software, or whether it's video editing software or whatever. Things take time to get used to them, and that's why I like markers, because it's very simple to use once you understand how to use it. And then that's what tomorrow is going to be about. Is about getting it set up with markers. Ronnie asked about Bloodhound. I don't know. I don't use Bloodhound. I talked to the guys at Bloodhound a few years ago, actually around the time before I made the big switch to NinjaTrader 8, so 2018, about stuff. And they said they'd get back to me, and then we sort of just never talked again. So I don't know. I do know I have a few users that use Bloodhound, and they tell me it does work with them. But again, I don't know. I don't use Bloodhound myself. I haven't used Bloodhound since I was talking to the guys at Bloodhound years ago on NinjaTrader 7. So I'm not sure. I can't really answer that question. I don't want to give you an answer either way. But anyway, guys, I don't want to keep you guys on much longer. Okay, 15-minute chart once. Okay, let's take a look here. Do I got it? Did it ever come up here? Where's my 15-minute chart? This one. Okay, again, it's the 15-minute chart. Yeah, there's some signals, but again, I wouldn't really want to trade a 15-minute chart. Me, I'm different than other people. But there's some signals. When you're going to trade a 15-minute chart, obviously, I think is the best time to trade it is during the day session. But I mean, look at this. On a day like today, right? You got this bar here. From 6 all the way up to 26. It's a 20-point bar. I just find it a little hard to trade myself. I'd prefer something that's a little bit more manageable. But I mean, there's moves. Would I trade it? I mean, you might have to find some settings. I might need to adjust the settings a little bit. Bomi, that package is an old one. That package comes with the Orderflows Trader, the Pulse, and the Turns. But if you're interested in that package, Bomi, you can get it. I will swap out the Turns. I'll throw in the Flowshifts instead, or the Flowscalper. But again, that was the old version of Orderflows. I don't know how you found that page, but I thought I took that page down. But anyway, that really is the best offer. But I could switch out the indicators for you. Ben asked, what time is tomorrow's webinar? It's at 10 a.m. It's in the morning, 10 a.m. Chicago time. Pablo's in Argentina, so I think he's in much different time zone than me. Argentina or Brazil? I forget. Carlos, can you put on the turns? I could, but I'm not really talking about the turns today. All right, let me just get this back to a 1-minute chart. Just give me a second here. All right, I'll put the turns on here. Honestly, I haven't looked at the turns on the 1-minute chart today. Turns is a little bit different, all right? There's actually two settings. There's for long duration and short duration. Okay, long duration would be things like, 1-minute chart. And you can also have short duration if you're using a very quick. But what people, you can actually put both. You can put long and short on the same chart. I have this set at look back period. For now, I'll just turn it off, look back, just so you guys can see the signals. I'm going to put it both long and short. Yeah, Bomi, email me. Here, I'll put my email there for you. There. Anyway, let's see what comes up on this. I don't have it on this chart here, so after this turns, one comes up, I'll end it there because it's been 2 hours. Thanks to everyone for staying on here. But if you're interested to see how the turns chart looked, stick around. Let's take a look. Give it a second because I got both running up there. Robert, yeah, Robert asked, he says he didn't realize there was a new version of Orderflows Trader. Yeah, it came out back in October for people that have the software. The upgrade is free. So this is turns. Again, I have the trade entry signal turned on. Okay, so that's why you see a lot of these signals here, right here, but there's no up or down arrow. If I turn off I'll keep the trade entry signal on. I'm going to turn off the zones here. So zones, change you to 0. Change you to 0. It sort of cleans it up a little bit. James asks, what ATR minimum to use in the volatile markets checkbox. Volatile markets checkbox is really meant for markets that have a lot of volatility. Okay, so it's got nothing to do with the ATR you're going to use on anything else. It's just, if you're putting the indicator on a market that's more volatile, then it's going to take into account the extra volatility in the market of that market that you're trading. But anyways, yeah, by one. So here, right, you could see this was today on the turns, okay? Right, there's a sell signal here, a buy signal here, a sell signal there, sell signal there, a buy rather here. These sells late in the day. This is the evening session, so, or not evening, but the morning session, 6:30. Right, some signals there. And again, this is just the basics, almost the basic settings. Right, long and short. I have the look back filter turned off. I have the threshold set at 0.3, which is 30%. 0.3 on both long and short. But anyway, that's the turns. Again, that's a presentation for another time. If you're interested in seeing that, email me. I could put one together for you guys. But anyway, guys, have a great day, great night rather. And again, hope if you're interested, now's the time to pick up the indicator. Go to flowshifts.com. But again, if you're interested in the replay, I'll be sending it out later. Okay, so have a great night, and hopefully I'll see you guys, some of you guys at least, tomorrow on tomorrow's presentation with Pablo. So bye-bye, everyone.